So today we're going to go over what we call a marketing audit, where we review a business, whether it's a company that we like or one that's been around for a while or one that you've submitted, and we go over what's working, what's not working, kind of do a little bit more of a deep dive into their marketing strategy.
Today we're going to go over Wilson Golf. So Wilson was one of the biggest golf companies in the world.
Wait, is this the same? This is the same as Wilson.
Yes, like Wilson,
like Castaway Wilson.
Yeah, yes, like like the volleyballs, the baseball, like you can find them
tennis balls,
bits, mitts for baseball, tennis balls, basketballs, everything. They sell everything now, but they were a huge golf company,
right?
And they still. Let me tell you a little about like where they've come from because they have fallen off quite a bit.
In the golfing world, or just in general?
in the golfing world, right?
Gotcha.
So
I didn't know they started out as a golf company.
Yeah. So in 1914, Wilson Golf was one of the oldest golf equipment that they have been. They've since 1914 they've been around.
Wow.
Now when it comes to major championships, which in the golf, I like golf a lot. So I'll give you. So when it comes to golf, there's major championships. Right. So there's the US Open, there's the PGA Championship, there's the Masters, which everybody knows the Masters. And then there's the Open. They used to call it the European Open. Now it's just called the Open.
Okay.
Anyway, so when they look at brands and how many championships they've won, it's okay, which athletes do they sponsor? And which ones win the championships. And then basically the brands can claim that they've won that championship, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So they are still to this day leading with 62 major championships.
Really?
Like beyond,
even though they haven't been in the game for a while.
And they haven't had really a sponsored, real top level sponsored athlete for a long time. So it's pretty interesting. I mean, they had legendary players like Sam Snead, Arnold Palmer,
like the drink,
Ben Crenshaw. yeah, like the drink. Well, that's where it comes from.
Interesting.
Him, right?
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. So, Arnold Palmer is one of the greatest golfers of all time, and then he created the drink that everybody loves now.
Funny.
But anyway, so that they were sponsoring these amazing golfers. They were innovating like crazy too. Wilson was the one that came up with the sand wedge, which is in every standard bag that you can buy. So if you buy a standard starter kit, whether it's a starter kit or a full bag, like when you get better, everybody has a sand wedge. They innovated that.
I had no idea that they invented that. That's
so they kind of went from 50s to 80s. They really played this serious role in golf where they were sponsoring everybody. They're at all these championships. They won a ton of events with their athletes using their equipment to kind of falling off.
So
right?
Like what? Like how do you go from top dog to kind of just like an afterthought?
Yeah, so I think a big part of it was kind of what we talked about at the beginning was that they are now everything. So Wilson Golf is now tennis to basketball to football to every kind of thing. And
you don't associate them with golf at all.
No, not as much.
Not now.
They still sell stuff. They still sell balls. They still sell clubs actually, but they still have some really good stuff. Like I have some Wilson clubs at my house, but they're not this top level player in the space anymore. The top level player is going to be Callaway, Titleist, TaylorMade, and people know them. Ping, and people know those brands, and they don't really go to Wilson anymore. And so what happened was they started shifting their focus. So they got bought in the 80s, 90s. They got bought by PepsiCo, which is Pepsi, big corporation, right? And from there, they kind of shifted their focus from this innovative brand, that's top dog brand, to how many people can we sell clubs to, which changes the whole dynamic of the company, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're an innovator and you're trying to get the best products, you know you're going to be charging more, and you know that your market's going to shrink, right? Because like the people that you're targeting are the higher end people. They shifted to, okay, how many clubs can we get out there to all these different people, whether you're a beginner to like advanced. So that really shifted, and the focus drifted from innovation to kind of the everyday person, which lost their presence on tour. So pros stopped using a lot of their clubs. And now we see that they are trying to come back and bring a lot of the nostalgia and a lot of the presence online, but not online, but just in general back to them saying, hey, we still sell good golf clubs. And so I wanted to go through, and because I find it fascinating that they want, like we said, won so many championships. They're this huge brand, to now kind of having to like work their way back from the bottom almost in this specific segment. Now that Wilson's a big brand, and we're not going over all of Wilson because Wilson's ginormous. Like we said, they're in all these different sports. So, but as golf, they've fallen off. So let's see what they're doing to try to bring themselves to have a big comeback in the space.
Nice. Yeah, let's check it out.
So they've been rebuilding over the last few years, and they're not just winging it. They are making some smart moves. They launched some new club lines. One was the DynaPower. The DynaPower clubs, they're the drivers, some hybrids, some fairway woods, which are the big clubs that you use, and it's kind of the staple. It's what you mostly start off at the tee each hole with is a big driver or fairway wood. And they came up with the new DynaPower series.
So what's different about these ones?
Now, this one's just a new innovative driver for Wilson. Everybody's coming out with a lot new, what they're saying is AI technology to help you. Like if you have a mishit, which means that if you hit off the toe, which is the end of the club, or the heel, which is the back end of the club, and not in the sweet spot, it'll still hit pretty straight. Now, all these brands are trying to do that. So they came up with their own version, and the reviews are online pretty good. So the fact that they're coming out with these is pretty interesting.
And AI.
That's what they all the companies claim that it's AI powered.
Like
I don't even know.
Like they design it.
Yeah,
and
I assume that's what they mean.
make it-
I think for most of it is just a marketing ploy of, okay, look out, like AI is this big thing that everybody knows now. It's like this computer generated really smart device. Let's bring that into our club so people can relate the two.
Interesting.
Right? So they came out with these new clubs, which is a big deal for Wilson. But it's interesting to me because they're moving away from, or at least they're entering a more serious price range. Because online they're looking at like $560, I believe, for their driver, which is pretty expensive. So
yeah, what's kind of the average price?
So like if you're looking at TaylorMade or Callaway, or Titleist, those three, you're looking at pretty expensive, like around that same price range though, around $600. So they're not pretty much any cheaper than what you would be paying for, the top tier brand. So it's $549 for their driver.
Okay.
So
right
you're
up
looking they're trying to compete with these huge brands, which is really interesting. And so I think that's their shift is, okay, we need some more serious things that we're actually going to put time and effort into. So there's a lot more customization with like, okay, you can shift weights around to try to like, it'll help you move the ball from right to left, and so they have some of that, which a lot of these brands do. In the past, a lot of their drivers didn't have it, and so now they're entering that market where most brands are doing now, which is shiftable weights and
right. Well, you sent a video that I watched, and I saw that they would be moving things around, and like putting it in the club, and
so you can
like,
shift a weight from the back to the
for.
front, and what it'll do is when you swing, it'll help. Like if you hit like a fade and you want to hit a draw, you can shift weights around in your club, and it'll help bring your club path differently. That's the whole idea of it.
Instead of correcting your form, you're correcting
you're correcting the club and how it moves through the path. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So, but for $550, you're like, oh wow, okay. So you're trying to compete with the big dogs because they're no longer a big dog in the golf space. So they also have the Wilson Fit AI. So it's their software that is supposed to basically analyze your swing and then help you select which club that is best for you. So it'll give you a shaft.
Just like your phone?
Yeah, I believe so. So it's a fitting software that uses real-time swing data. So I believe that it's just an app you can download. And so they're trying to get into kind of what everyone else is doing. They're getting there. Like they're attempting to bring themselves up to date because they've been behind for so long, right?
I mean, I'm assuming they'd have to do quite a few other things too to kind of really get their name back out
Yeah.
there, rather
Well,
than just
and
pricing a club.
one thing would be re-signing tour pros. Now they did sign Gary Woodland and Kevin Kisner, and they're credible guys, but they're not like top 10, 20 guys, right? The most of those guys at the very top, they're either free agents, which means they just pick whatever club is best, which they're not using Wilson. And then the other ones are either signed to like Callaway, Ping, PXG, Titleist, those big brands that are still known as like the best of the best. So they are moving that way. They're trying to sign people. They're trying to get their clubs out there, which is something I think they need to do if they're trying to break into this, hey, we're selling a $550 driver.
Right.
Like they need to have people that are credible to use their clubs. And so I think that's a good idea. Now their branding for their new campaign is pretty interesting, and I think it's a good strategy. They are going with the play original, so it's like saying, it's kind of being like, hey, we have a heritage of being the best. Like, come back, play with us because we've been here forever. We know what we're doing. I think that's a good play. I mean, when you were started over 100 years ago in the golf space, it's a good idea.
It's kind of interesting that they're going play original, but then also AI.
Yeah, new technology. Yeah, because I think it's like they have to have this new technology and be innovating, but at the same time be like, hey, we have this heritage of all these other players like Arnold Palmer, and like we have all 62 majors. Like, yeah, lean on that. I mean, that's where you've been forever. I don't know, lean towards that. And I think the play original saying is really good. I think it taps into kind of the classic golf. Like golf is an interesting sport because when you see golf, you think polos and sweaters and checkered pants and like, like different things that is just like, it's very, the golf itself is kind of like baseball. Is like baseball is very nostalgic. Like as in like you see it, you're like, oh yeah, there's like a real heritage behind it.
Yeah.
Golf is similar. I think you don't have that with like basketball or football. Not nearly the same, right? Like,
right.
So I think to lean into that is good. They also are starting some TV ads, which is, I think, good. I mean, if you have the money for them, I think TV ads are fine. I especially depending on like when you're doing it. Like if you're doing it around PGA events, great. If you have the money for it, that's fantastic. But I think also like we're going to get into kind of their online presence and I think they're lacking in a lot of areas on their online. So they're not just fixing their products. They're trying to fix how people perceive them. And I think they're making strides in that aspect.
Cool. So let's talk about their strategy here. Like how are they targeting the everyday golfers, relationships with retailers, things like that?
Yeah, so they're getting back into what most brands do. They're like, it's almost like they had to start from scratch almost, because they just let it. Like you can buy Wilson starter kits for super, super cheap. Like if I wanted to go online on Amazon, you can buy a Wilson starter kit for probably a couple $100, like an entire set for a couple $100,
that's pretty cheap.
Yeah, super cheap. And it's interesting because if they're trying to become a really big brand, that's fine, but they're going to have to be really diverse in like their ads and their messaging, because not only are they trying to get $600 drivers out there, but then they're trying to sell $200 full kits. So it's a weird dilemma, right?
And I don't think they're doing this, but kind of what I think of is the car industry. How you have like Honda as the more budget friendly one, and then you have Acura as their high end brand.
Yeah.
I almost see that play being a little bit more advantageous for them, but they do also want to leverage the like play original, like their history. And so to come out with a new brand would be, I think, a lot more challenging for them because they now couldn't claim, oh, we've won,
Yeah,
only
it'd
hit
have to be like
62
something by
championships.
Wilson. Like you'd have to have the name, which is a little weird. Yeah, so they're a little more expensive than $200, but they're like $400 for an entire kit. So still which
cheap
is cheaper than the one driver.
Exactly.
So it's this kind of like we talked about. I mean, for a beginner, that's great, but it's this weird dynamic that they have to kind of struggle with. So there are doing other things like for direct, let's say like the B2C. Yeah, or let's do B2C highlights. So they are really pushing their website a lot, which is good. The one problem I see about their website is I think if you go to like the homepage of golf, it's a really good setup. It just says
what's the URL for that?
So it's wilson.com/en-us-golf. So Wilson Golf, at the very top, you have drivers, metal woods, irons, wedges, butters, the balls. It kind of gives you the full setup of like, this is, if you want one of these, you can go straight to it, which I think is good. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people put like these beautiful pictures and stuff, but a lot of the time when you're selling online products, people just want to be able to go to exactly what they want. And if this is your main page, you need to have those options ready for them so they can just click exactly where they want and then go view their stuff. Scrolling down, you have a video of their new drivers and their new DynaPowers line, which is also
This is
irons.
where I saw the shifting of that weight.
Yeah, which is really cool. And it's a really cool video. It's obviously it's a dynamic video that shows the inside of the club, shows the weight moving. It's a really cool video. So, and then also shows their really cool logo. They've updated the logo for Wilson to be like this shield, which is an homage or whatever to one of their old logos.
Yeah, I was wondering about that
cool
because it looks much higher end.
Yeah, which is really cool. And for golf, I think if you're moving to hey, this is our higher end thing, it makes sense not to have Wilson on there, but to have something like that. So, and then you scroll down and it kind of goes through the entire, okay, we got new infinite wedges, the DynaPower fitting events, which is one of the other things. So they're doing a lot of fitting events. So a fitting event means like they go to a golf course, and then they'll sponsor a free fitting. So you go and you'll swing on their software, they'll film you, and then they'll say, hey, this is what we recommend. And they'll change out clubs, they'll give it to you so you can test. It's a way to get people to try your clubs without having to buy them. But it gets you in front of people and it gets them swinging your clubs, which is fantastic. And then if they want to buy them, they know exactly what they want to buy, what shaft to do and all that. So it's a really cool thing that most companies do, and they're out there doing this now. Now, when it comes to the B2C stuff, their email marketing, their welcome flows, and they actually have pretty insane amount of emails going out. So Wilson's sending about one a day. So it's like 7 to 8 emails a week, which is a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. So there's always this dilemma of, do you send more emails or less emails? Because you can get to the point where you annoy customers so much that they just disengage, which I think one a day is probably too much, to be honest.
I think so, unless you can provide true value.
Yeah, right. You can provide true value, or the return on them is just totally worth it. So the amount of people unsubscribing is way less than the people actually buying from you. So you don't care. And we don't have obviously that data, but 7 to 8 seems like a lot.
Yeah, and maybe they've tested it a bunch, and that's like where their sweet spot is. Like that part we don't know, but I know as a consumer, if someone's emailing me that much, I'm either unsubscribing or filtering them to the trash.
Yeah, exactly. And I would do the exact same thing. Lastly, they've launched some social campaigns like the Duo Soft and the staff model balls. So they're releasing new balls where they're doing a bunch of social stuff around it, which I think is good. We'll talk about their social stuff in a minute. I think they have a lot to work on, to be honest, about their content and social strategy online. When it comes to their B2B highlights, so they're running demo
So B2B, days. We're just for viewers, business to business.
Yes.
B2C, business to consumer.
Yes. So B2B would be, hey, they are going through and selling to retailers, then retailers are selling your stuff. So this is where I talk about demo days. So like, let's say you go to Dick's Sporting Goods, they could have a fitting session at Dick's Sporting Goods where they set up, and then you can try it in their launch monitors or a simulator. So you're hitting into like a curtain, and there's a screen that shows you where your ball would have went. They do stuff like that, and they're having things like Wilson Week at the PGA Tour Superstore, which is this big store, obviously, for the PGA Tour. They have their own stores all over the country. They do things like that to get people to try their clubs and hopefully buy their clubs if they like what they're seeing. Then they're incentivizing club pros and fitters to recommend Wilson through a Wilson Advisory Staff Program. Now, I would be interested to see what the incentives on those are, because I couldn't find exactly what they are, but I read at several places that they have them. So it'd be interesting. I assume that most companies probably do this. Like if you sell so many, or if you you get certain perks, it's almost, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see that, but that is another thing that they're running. And then they're doing partnerships with coaches and courses to help promote their brand. So like I go to the local courses here. One of the courses is a lot of TaylorMade posters everywhere. Even though they have other brands in their shop, almost all the posters are TaylorMade. So I assume they have some sort of deal with TaylorMade to do that. And same thing with they have TaylorMade come out on a pretty regular basis to do a fitting there as well. So they probably have some sort of deal specifically with TaylorMade that promotes them more than other brands.
Gotcha. So Ken, what else do you think they're doing well, not so good when it comes to getting attention online?
So I think if someone finds Wilson on Instagram or searches golf clubs on YouTube, Wilson's golf clubs, they're not seeing a ton, which is a problem, right? So on Instagram, they have 166,000 followers, which you're like, oh, dang, that's pretty good.
But it's also, that's just for the golf.
Just
version.
for golf.
That's not for
just
their
for golf.
main brand.
Just for golf. But if you actually look at their engagement, it is pretty dang low. Now, I'll look it up while we're talking, but it's not very, very high. So per post, Wilson Golf it struggles.
So it's interesting because they don't have a whole lot of likes, or you can't see their likes on their posts.
Yeah, so you can hide your likes, which is a pretty normal thing at this point. It's just a setting you can put in on Instagram.
When is that advantageous?
I think when you're a small company, it's probably better because there's this perception of like, if a lot of people don't like it, why should I be following it? Yeah. And so it's like, well, if you're not big yet, why even worry about it? I think the likes numbers people don't care about as much. It's like, if you like it, you like it. I think that's changed because of a feature like this. That being said, most big accounts just leave it. They don't, which is interesting. So if you click on one of their photos, you're looking at 166,000 followers and you got like 10 comments. So it's not like insane, like this one it's a photo 6 days ago and has 4 comments, so it's not the huge numbers that they're pulling in. So they are posting pretty consistent. So that's one thing I will give them is that they're posting probably 5 times a week, which is good. I think as a golf company, because there's so many parts to the game and they have such a big line of products, it should be pretty easy to post consistently because you're probably getting a lot of tags from people, but also you should have a lot of content when you're that big of a company. There's probably a marketing team that all that person does is take content. That's all they do. At least you would think. So so when it comes to our Instagram, I think let's also put in perspective this. If we do comparisons against like some of the other brands, like Callaway has over 1 million plus followers. They only have 166,000. Now, could it be because Callaway's a lot more focused of a brand? Probably. Like I would say yes, because Callaway only has one account. We've looked up Wilson, and Wilson has like a bunch of, they have Wilson pickleball, Wilson golf, Wilson tennis, Wilson everything.
Callaway golf has almost 2 million, 1.9.
Yeah. So Callaway's huge. And so when it comes to 166,000, it's like, oh, that it dwarfs Wilson
Well,
Golf.
and one interesting thing, I'm looking at Callaway Golf right now, and like their stuff actually looks a little less polished than Wilson's.
It's more like
it looks
it's
a little
almost
bit
more
authentic.
UGC.
Yeah.
Like people are tagging them and they're sharing content, and I think that that actually works really well, especially for this, because people want to see it in action. So
Right.
as another thing that I would suggest that Wilson does is that they do have reels, but they almost have less reels than they do pictures. And so it's like it's golf. People want to see movement,
Right.
and so like share the videos. There's a bunch of people that still have Wilson stuff that are filming golf online, like golf YouTube, golf social media is huge. There's people filming and showing themselves. Hit the ball, share it,
Right.
And so it may not be as polished as your professional photos, but it'll still connect with people better.
Yeah.
So now if we move on to YouTube is underperforming. They have barely 5,000 subs, or they have 5,000 subscribers. And I think they're missing out a lot on long form content like gear reviews, gear breakdowns. I think you could also interview people. You could do a heritage of Wilson, go back and do stories. You can interview Arnold Palmer, which obviously they would have to pay for, but with him using the clubs, that's a big deal. You could kind of use that and lean into that, especially if you're saying play original. Like it feels like Arnold Palmer is probably a good option.
Get some of the originals on there.
Yeah, right. So
one thing that I notice that so many companies do, and I've fallen victim to this too in other companies, but focusing so much on technical specs. Like when we go to that DynaPro landing page and stuff, it's all about the club.
Yeah.
But people don't buy specs, people buy results.
Yeah.
Right? So like I think they just from what I've seen, they need to lean more into the results rather than the technical specs. The technical specs are still important, and those details should still be there, but after they've already captured the emotion and the results that they're going to have because people are using their product. Like a lot of times when I see, like we talked in a previous episode about Payless, how they did like a
Paylessy.
A fake brand, a fake high-end brand, and people were looking just at Payless shoes, and they're like, "These are amazing. I'd pay like $500 for these." Like just ridiculous things, and then they reveal that these are Payless shoes. Right. Like if they did more authentic content like that, to where it shows honest reactions of people using a Wilson driver or something,
Well, at like the fitting demo days, someone hitting it and be like, "Oh man, that's
like,
great!"
Oh, this is incredible.
Having someone actually someone in the marketing department actually filming content of people trying it out and I think that would be really good.
Yeah. So like they got to capture the emotion, get away from the specs.
Yeah. Right.
And get more into the emotion.
And
the specs are important for a lot of people.
Yeah. So for like, if you're going to spend $600 on a driver, some of the specs are very important. Like you want low spin, or you want a certain range spin, things like that. But you can also generally say things and then give the specs later. So I think what you're saying is like, people want to know, like, if I want to know 4 things, like, it's like, okay, I want to be able to move weights around. So, because I have a problem with like slicing my hits. So I want to draw the ball more, which means go the other way. It's like, talk about how movable weights to help you draw the ball better. And then it's like this 2,500 spin rate, because that'll help you, once it hits the ground, roll further. Like you can say that kind of stuff without being real specific. So people know like, okay, these are the 3 things that I want. And then further down, like you're saying, go way into the specs where it's like, if somebody's like
first.
And then go into the real details so people can get attracted. And so when they see it, they're like, oh, I want to know more. And then they can dive into more. And I agree with you.
Or even better, like have someone that's more of a pro test it out, just do a blind test and react to it. And, if they could get one of the original guys, if they're still playing and stuff that, like, show them using it and just being like, oh my gosh, like I wish I would have had this, when I was playing. And things like that. And then you can go into the specs but it's like you got to capture that
Emotion
interest
first.
and get them to feel something. If they don't feel something, they're going to read the specs and it's going to be like, it's not going to really grab you.
Yeah.
But if you grab them first and then give them the specs to say, hey, this is exactly what you want, they're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
They're gonna fork out the money to pay for it.
For sure. But let's go through their paid ads, which I think is important. What did you find out about their kind of what ads they're running on social and on Google, and what do you think? How do you think they can improve there?
So this is a pro tip for a lot of marketers out there. A lot of people don't know about this. You can actually view your competitors or whatever brand you're interested in. You can view their ads on Google and also the Meta platform.
And what website is that?
So all you do is get on Google and type in Google Ads Transparency Center. You click on probably what will be the first result, and then you can put in the brand you're interested in. So in this case, we did Wilson Sporting Goods Co. That's like the name of their company. And so when we pull it up, we can see all the ads they're doing. And surprisingly, I mean, for the pushing, trying to get more into the golfing world, they don't run a ton of golfing ads.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Which, a lot of it right now, at least, is tennis and pickleball and baseball. Like it's not until you scroll down quite a bit before you start seeing any sort of golfing ads. And
it's interesting because I assume that a lot of it's seasonal. Like you won't see any football stuff right now, but in the fall you'll see a lot of football stuff.
Yes.
But golf, springtime is the start of golf
now
season.
is
Everybody's getting into it. Like I'm into it right now, as Isaac knows, and
too into it.
Yeah, I'm too into it.
It's a problem.
That's why we picked a golf company to start.
When I saw you submitted this, I was like,
makes sense.
I was like, yep, okay, yeah, this makes sense. But.
So, but right now is a perfect time for it. That now through all of summer is a great time for golf, and the fact that they're not running any ads, I think is, especially with
or they're running very few ads.
Very few ads.
Like, so I'm only finding, I think, only one. And let's see, and you can select a time frame. So let's look at like maybe the last 30 days. Let's change it to last 30 days, and let's see if we can see anything different. But honestly, I'm seeing a lot of the same ads. I can find one obvious golfing ad, and that's the Wilson Staff Model 8802, like putter. It looks like
just their putter?
I think it's just their
so
putter.
They have a Staff Model iron set, which is actually a very good set. That's kind of one of their it's not the DynaPower, which is their top right now, but it's one that's been around forever. Like the Wilson Staff series is one of their classic lines that they've always had and they've always pushed, and it's always been like a really good one that you can buy. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they don't have any ads for that either is kind of crazy.
Just the putter here. So like, and all it is a picture of the head. I think that's what it's called. I don't know.
Yeah, the head of the club, yeah.
And just Wilson Staff Model 8802. Like, honestly, like nobody cares.
Yeah, right.
Nobody cares unless you're looking specifically for that product.
Right.
This is where we talk about you need to get into the emotional side of things.
Yeah. You
need to capture some sort of result that somebody wants so that they will click on it.
Right.
And I think right here they're really missing the mark.
Yeah, I agree.
And they need to do something different to kind of like do some video ads.
Well, and I like what we talked about, like on Facebook especially, it's so visual that you need to have some dynamic content on there that you can push for ads, even if it's relatively inexpensive, but you're, paying $5 a day just to get views. At least you're getting stuff out there. And the fact that they're only focused on other things, I think shows as a big brand, which they're a giant corporation, I understand. But their golf brand that used to be so big is now like kind of on the wayside. Right. But if they're trying to push and make it a more household name again, this isn't the way to do it.
Mm-hmm. So you can also do the same thing with meta ads. And one interesting thing, all right, so if you just type in to Google, view competitors' Facebook ads, you'll get search the meta ad library. Okay. You click on that. You select a category. I'm just going to do all ads. And then you can start searching by keyword or advertiser. And in this case, you want to do Wilson Golf because that's what
Right.
we're talking about. And you can view all the meta ads for Wilson Golf. We can see underneath it shows similar regional ads for Wilson Golf. Excuse me. And then the one interesting thing about this is if you look in like Germany and Mexico, they lean more on the older logo with like that shield.
Oh, really?
And when I look at it, so they have the shield logo with the W and the S, and underneath it for Mexico, it says Wilson Staff.
Yeah, yeah.
Like going back to just talking a little bit more about their branding, I think they should lean into that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like way more than like that kind of cursive Wilson logo.
Yeah, and the Wilson cursive is so prominent, like everybody knows it,
Right.
but it also feels like a big cheaper brand.
Right.
So it's
And
like
if they leaned into the old logo with the Play Original, like
Yeah.
that is on brand. Like,
I
you know,
agree.
that messaging and the branding just go really, really well together. And so I think that like right there, they need to change that.
Yeah.
They need to go back to that original logo that looks higher end, that speaks to the Play Original, and then focus more on capturing that emotion of playing original and their 62 championships, things like that.
Yep.
If we look at their ads, we're seeing a lot of the same thing to where they're showing a picture of the golf club, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't capture any emotion.
Yeah.
And so if they can find a way to change their ad creative to where they can show more the results, like and on one it says, discover the speed, sound, and power of 3 new formidable designs. That should be a video
Yeah, right.
showing the speed, sound,
Yeah, right.
and power, you know, like the sound on, like listen to this, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
the sound of someone hitting a golf ball real
Pure.
hard.
Yeah,
and,
pure.
like,
That
a
where it's
clean
great contact, dude. It's such a nice sound.
It's a nice sound that I think any golfer would just be like,
Ooh, yeah,
that's
I like
nice.
that. Yep.
with the original
Totally.
logo, with the Play Original, like all that together, that captures my attention and makes me want to learn more.
Yeah.
Right?
I totally agree.
And so like right now it's all like just pictures of golf clubs, which it doesn't really differentiate itself with other brands,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
And so they clearly are promoting a lot more on Meta ads
Then
than Google, which is kind of interesting. I'm sure they've done tests and see better returns, but I really, really like Google ads because they're a lot higher intent.
Yeah, right.
People who are more interested and more likely to purchase are going to be searching on Google than they are on the Meta platform.
And that's why me and you with our clients typically do a mixture of both, right? Because you're looking at like if you're looking into a funnel, the Google's more of a lower funnel ad because people are actively searching for that specific thing versus Facebook's using, we believe, use their demographics and analytics and their AI to be like, okay, these people will be interested in golf. So we're going to start sharing it to there. So it's a broader audience that you can filter in to hopefully get them to search, and then you can use them to Google or you can lead them to Google.
And like some ads that I would consider running on the Meta platform because it's not as high intent to purchase, it's more discovery. I would focus on maybe having a pro like teach something using the Wilson clubs.
Yep.
Right? You use that, you get them into an email sequence, like you take them to your website, get them into an email sequence to where you're going to be sending tips and tricks on how to be a better golfer. And then you start promoting products, right?
Yeah.
So like, I think that is a big missed opportunity here for Wilson, is just getting people involved with the brand. Like, if especially for a beginner, like they need to feel like, hey, Wilson's got my back. They're going to teach me. And that kind of brand loyalty is going to result in revenue coming in.
I 100% agree. So let's go over what we think they did well, where they can improve, and if it were us, what we would do to help promote the brand. Now, when it comes to what they're doing well, I think the Play Original is a really good branding idea. I think you could use old players like Arnold Palmer, who's very, very old, by the way. But like Arnold Palmer or any of these,
or even some newer ones,
some newer ones. That's going way back. Yeah. But like also everyone knows his name. That's why it's easy to pick on that. But use some of their old pros that they've used before and bring them back.
Or pair some older pros that maybe aren't golfing but are very recognizable.
Yeah.
Pair them with some younger pros as well. to have some dialogue going
and
on
have that
between
play
them.
original throughout everything. 'Cause
Yes.
I think that's a really cool play. I think using some smart influencer marketing, they have done. They're starting to do that, right? Like they are signing some pros. I think it's also hard as a company that's been around forever, but also it's viewed as like a beginner brand to try to break into that. So I think it's going to take time, and it's not going to happen overnight. But starting to sign new pros like they're doing, I think is a good idea. And then they're upgrading their products, right? They're finally innovating. They're going through and they're coming out with DynaPower. They've redone the staff irons and kind of leaning back into, okay, let's make some really good clubs instead of just beginner stuff. Obviously, the beginner stuff's going to be their bread and butter, and I think they should stick with it when it comes to sales and obviously have the presence there. But being finally innovating again is a good thing for Wilson as a brand if they're trying to break back into the top tier. Some things they can improve, like we talked about. I think the YouTube, they're missing long form content like crazy. Like you should have a training series. You should have where you bring on pros and have them talk to you, or go out to the kind of the events where they're fitting people and have genuine reactions. Have somebody that's in place that is their job, because it's going to be worth it to have that kind of content. Not only for YouTube and long form, but you can break that down so you can actually have genuine content all over your social media. And that's something that they're really lacking on. I think the community building with amateur golfers would be huge. I think like they do a good job with their blog, being able to filter those people like we talked about into specific flows would be a huge benefit for them. So that way they can really focus on not just selling a product, but helping golfers as a beginner. That's really good for them, because if they can help the golfers at the beginning when they're buying their cheap golf clubs and then they're like, oh, I like Wilson and I can just buy the higher end Wilsons now once they grow out of the beginners and they want to get better,
Right.
they can do that. You kind of keep them in your, atmosphere of clubs, right? So
Yeah, and having like those beginner clubs have that like traditional Wilson logo, or the new one, with the
Yep.
cursive. But then when they get into the higher end clubs, lean on that more original brand with the shield that
Yep.
just looks nicer.
Totally.
So you're still in
It
the
feels
same
like an
company,
upgrade. It
but
still feels like a huge upgrade.
Very
You're like,
much
oh,
so.
look at what I'm at this logo, this shield, where I know it's like the original staff line of clubs. I think the last thing that we talked about is they really need to work on sharpening the innovation messaging, like less specs, more emotion, and then specs later.
Yep.
I think that is really important.
primary
Missing in it.
capture the emotions, secondary show the specs.
Totally. Now, if it were us, I think when it comes to the Wilson videos and things, I think I would launch a Why I Play Wilson series and just really lean into, okay, all these people have played Wilson for a long time. Wilson still has good clubs that a lot of people play. Let's interview people that do that, like that use it. And so people can see whether they're beginner or whether they're experienced. Like interview them, let them explain why they chose Wilson. It could be actually, I think it'd be really cool to have like really old golfers that have been doing it for decades interview and say, yeah, I still use my Wilson. I really love them. And this is why.
Right. And pairing that with micro influencers as well.
Right. And I think the long form's cool because you don't have to be like, sell my product. You say, hey, let's tell your story. And it could be an old golfer that played in college. And he's like, I started out with wood clubs, and show old pictures. Like do kind of an interview series of these golfers and have your new clubs that they use at the very end when they're showing them actually playing still, like kind of be the transition at the very end to actually selling. Because I don't think you have to, hey, this is why I do it, you should buy it. That's not the point. The point is to show that real people do it and share those stories. And I think it'll connect with a lot more people. And then they can partner with some big YouTubers. Obviously, there's big YouTube reviewers like Rick Shields and other ones that take clubs and then they interview and they kind of break them down. They've done this before. They have sent some out to like Rick Shields, like their new drivers they did. And he had some pretty positive things about it. Now, when you do that, it's kind of a catch-22 because they'll say some good things, but they'll also say, hey, I don't like this and this. So
Right.
it kind of keeps you honest as well as a brand, right? Like it's okay, like they didn't like this. Why didn't they like it? And then they're going to give you feedback.
Right.
And
sometimes
you can either
that
take it, or
the negative might not be a big deal for somebody that's
for a
considering
lot of people,
purchasing.
right? For a lot of people, it might not be a big deal at all.
Yeah, they might be like, oh, they see it as authentic, but also like they're like, oh, I don't really care about that. So
yeah,
they just focus on the good.
Yeah, if someone's like, oh, I don't really like the grip on this, it's like a lot of people are like, well, I put my own grips on, so it doesn't matter. I don't really care about that, and then they move forward. So, yeah, and then the last thing, I don't think they push hard enough on their irons. Like they're like, and a lot of companies do this. Like they have a good product that's been around forever, like a really good product that everyone knows. And then for some reason, they don't lean into it enough. And I think this is them with their staff irons. They're so good and they've been around forever. It's like lean into that and push it, because like looking at the ads, it's like you have a putter. That's like one of them. And then it's like,
like, that's it.
Yeah. It's like, hey, push harder on these things. Like really get it out there. If it's one of your prominent things, you should have ads on it. I don't know. Like, why are you missing this opportunity? So if it was us, we would be pushing that. Thanks for watching. If you guys like this marketing audit, make sure you give this video a like, comment any brands that you would like us to review in the comment section, and make sure you subscribe to Launching Pros.
If you want us to do a marketing audit for your company, please message us on our social media channels or send us an email at contact@launchingpros.com. If we choose your company, we will do a full marketing audit to where we go over what your company is doing well, areas of improvement, and at the end, we'll send you over a personalized report to help you implement our recommendations.